Welcome back to another special edition of Cape. Today, Heather and I are joined by Gloucester Mayor Greg Verga to recap 2022 and look forward to Gloucester's 400th anniversary here in 2023. How you doing, Mayor Verga?
I'm doing great, Kory and Heather. How are you guys today?
Great. Happy New Year.
You too.
So that first year went by pretty quickly, huh?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind. Yeah, I was reflecting on it, and it came out. I guess it boiled down to there were three aspects to the first year. You can't see my fingers. Three aspects to the first year of what the day-to-day job entailed. The first one was the carryover, things we inherited that we had to sort of wrap up. Things like the flood barrier around the high school and the sewer treatment plant, which should be getting started pretty soon, trying to get all the ducks in a row. All these things were at various levels of completion, and some were, needed a lot more work than others. The library, of course, we got that through the funding for, we're in a sense co-signing the loan because the Library Foundation is going to raise the money to build the new library. The police station project, we're still working on that, doing some negotiations with the courthouse to get them to help support the project. The Vietnam Memorial, which is, I don't know if you've been by there, looks pretty cool. That had sort of been in a holding pattern, so we were able to, break the logjam on that one. And then the project that's behind the cannons, over at the cannons at Stage 4 Park, that's funded and should be getting started hopefully early spring. So those are some of the things we inherited. The other part of the job is the routine daily work of running the city. Just meeting with managers, dealing with whatever comes in the door. We had a lot of things come in the door, especially the first day in office last year. We had a power failure within a few days. We had the first of many snowstorms, water main break, wind turbine blade falling. So those things sort of come in and you have to deal with them. And simultaneously, we were able to work on the new initiatives we talked about during the campaign. Some of the biggies for that. The sustainability coordinator, we've already talked about that with Gemma Wilkins being appointed a few weeks ago. Vocational school director, the superintendent and the school committee supported hiring a full-time director for the first time in many years, which will allow us to expand and strengthen the program. Roads was one thing that I talked extensively about. We put a lot of funding into roads at the end of June, before the end of the fiscal year 2022. We pumped in an additional $300,000 to road repair when we put together the 2023 budget, which we're working on now, which runs through the end of June 2023. We increased the road repair budget by 480%, from about 60,000 to 350,000. And then on top of that, put $3 million of ARPA funds into roads. So anybody driving around Gloucester, all five wards, will see there's road work going on and sidewalk repair. Beach reservation system, that was one that was talked about during the campaign by Rob Russell, who ran for mayor. When we got in, the city had started the groundwork for that, but we were able to see it through. I think it was unquestionably a success. Traffic was reduced significantly. The revenue was right on par with some of our best years. Performance evaluations was another one we talked about during the campaign. We did get that put back in place. Not quite 100% participation, but a lot better than it had been, very close to 100%. Affordable Housing Trust had been dwindled with very little members and not a very strong feeling of proactiveness. And so I think we reconstituted that. I think the members feel pretty invigorated by it. We've given them a funding stream, $1.5 million from ARPA funds. We also committed money from the short-term rental tax. Last year, it was about $50,000. This year, with the free cash that's just been certified, that'll be about $66,000 going into that. The sewer plant, we've talked about this extensively as well, $10 million of ARPA over to the sewer plant. The days of kicking the can down the road on secondary treatment are long gone. We are going to be seeing it through. Whether it's a regional approach with Manchester, Essex, and Rockport is another story, but we are pursuing that possibility as well. Regardless, Gloucester has to have a solution, and that's what we're on. So that's what we've done over the year. We're kicking off the new year with a lot of pieces, a lot of plates spinning right now, balls in the air, whatever analogy you want to plug in. But I guess I'll stop there to see if there are any questions on that. Then we can look ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to know, Greg, you're always so even keeled. And I just want to know how personally 2022 was transitioning to the role as mayor and seeing a lot of these projects either following through or working for projects in the future here.
Well, I
One of the things, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Heather.
say one thing. My question is the same, and also you look younger. So how did that happen?
That's a filter. That's a filter, Heather. That's,
Yeah, well, we've all seen those pictures of FDR and Obama on their first day in office, then on their last day. So hopefully, I got
You're
what's
going back.
the movie where the guy ages backwards.
Benjamin Button.
Yes.
Yeah.
But well, thank you for saying that. I forgot the original question, Kory. What was it?
Well, just how was 2022 personally for you as role as mayor?
It was great. It's funny. I run into Safathia at a lot of events, and Kelly, my wife, is usually with me, and she never Safathia never fails to say, "I think it's great that you, Kelly, go to these events," because her husband Matt's pretty shy, and so she was usually solo at a lot of events. So that really helps having her at the events. One good thing is I inherited a great team. We wanted to reset Gloucester. That was the campaign slogan, and fortunately the vast majority of the employees at the city did not need resetting. They needed sort of a reinvigoration, which I think we provided on January 1st last year. And so having the right people around me has made the job a lot easier. Got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, I said during the campaign multiple times, I know enough to know that I don't know everything. And having the experts who've been doing this for years, in some cases decades, made the job pretty seamless because I have full faith in them. I can run things by them. They bring things to my attention. I think we have it's sort of cliche. We do the open door policy, but more figuratively, where they can feel confident and comfortable to talk to me about things. The goal for all of us is to make the city better tomorrow than it is today. And I think that's been a pretty successful mission so far.
Mhm.
So I'm going to follow up a little bit with Kory's question. We were all there the night that you won your election, and I think Kory will agree with me. You looked a little nervous. It was just you. Everybody was kind of nervous that night, but I remember thinking he's a little surprised that he's now going to be the mayor of Gloucester. So could you, looking back, could you think of the issue or the crisis or the moment when you realized, yeah, I got this. I'm just the mayor now. I'm not nervous about it. I know what to do. Can you?
Yeah, I think especially after the preliminary election last year, I was feeling very good about where things might go in last November, or November 21. And then leading up to the general election, I was feeling pretty good. So I'd say I was a bit surprised by the turnout, winning every ward by a pretty good margin. But yeah, I think the nervous thing is now sitting with you guys, even though I had a mask on, you can probably see just in my eyes. It's sort of like deer in the headlights. Oh crap, I won. Now what? And but again, we had the right people lined up that were, like Jill I had spoken to before the election, and she had agreed that she'd come on as my CAO if I won, and that helped that she had been here for 5 years. I've said this multiple times as well. I left city government January 2016 after 14 years, and Jill came in just a year or so later, so she sort of was able to fill in the gap for the time that I had missed. And I worked with many of the managers and the employees over the years anyway, and especially in my world of real estate, I was still in contact with the different departments. So yeah, there was a bit of, oh wow, now what are we going to do? But it just took a few days. I mean, forget the power failure and the snowstorms, but I think we eased into it, and I think everybody around us was supportive. Whether or not they supported me during the election, like I said, we all had the same goal, just to keep the ship running in the right direction. So yeah, there was a bit of maybe surprises in the word, but
Yeah,
I can't think of the right adjective, but it's
can't.
like,
Yeah, it was just maybe overwhelmed a little bit. I don't know. Do you remember that, Kory?
Well, it's a big moment, right? I mean, and we're at this odd spot coming on the other side of COVID and leading into the 400th. Like, there's a lot going on. It's a very key transitional period for the city. And
Yes.
to try to navigate through all those things isn't easy for any civil servant or local official. So I don't know. It's just there's some added light shown on all the subjects these days. So having said that, Greg, it's like looking forward to 2023. Obviously, Gloucester, I believe, is the seventh oldest city in the country, America's oldest seaport. 400 years we're celebrating all year long. So what are we looking forward to most? What sorts of things can folks expect the city participating in to celebrate this monumental moment?
Great. Well, I would urge people to go to gloucesterma400.org to keep up the latest and greatest. So we had the kickoff New Year's Eve here with the ball drop, which was pretty well attended, and it was a lot of fun. Were you there?
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
It was
great.
lovely. It was really beautiful, even
Yeah.
in the rain.
Yeah. So the mist was kind of, it was better than snow,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
and it
No,
wasn't too cold. So that was the first. On the 15th, the overture happens at the Gloucester High School, 1:30 to 4. And there's a lot of stuff going on through the years. One thing that I'm looking forward to is an expanded Schooner Fest, expanded in size and maybe in the duration. So yeah, there's just so much. 400 plus. And it's also a recognition of those who were here before us. My family's been here just about 110 years or so, but long before the first settlers came here with Samuel Champlain in the early 1600s, and then the English in 1623, it was about 10,000 years that this place was occupied and home to many other people. So I think it's important that we recognize those who were here before us, those who were brought here involuntarily before us, and it's a very exciting time to be mayor, I'm sure, and it's a very exciting time just to be a citizen of Gloucester, because I vaguely remember the 350th when I was a kid, and so I've kind of had this in my mind forever that I wonder if I'll be around for the 450th. I don't think that might be a stretch. I'll be 104 by then, but but I'm here for the 400th, which is very exciting indeed.
Yeah, I expect to see you in a top hat and cane throughout the year.
Yes, with a sash, right?
Yeah, right. So, Greg, what are some of the bigger issues you believe the city is facing in 2023?
Well, one of the good things we have is we still have to distribute the money for ARPA, and so that can tackle a lot of the issues we have. We have the housing is going to be a tough one, but given that influx of funds to the Affordable Housing Trust will be helpful going forward. We're still looking for some city-owned land that we might be able to spin off to create some affordable housing. The sewer plant is by far and away the biggest issue that we're going to have to deal with, whether it's the working with our neighbors to make a regional approach, whether we go it alone, but it's counting the money from ARPA, counting the money that was recently announced from the omnibus bill from Washington, $2 million. We're still about, I don't know, 80 million, $90 million short. So we're going to be looking to pick a lot of pockets through grants, low interest loans, forgivable loans, and just trying to keep it off the ratepayer. Because when I first got in here, I'd asked John Dunn, our CFO, can you run some numbers? If we had to bond the full $100 million for the sewer plant, how would that impact the sewer rate? And at the time, before the recent increase, it was, I think, $15.15 a thousand gallons was the sewer rate. To take the $100 million on, basically double that to over $30 a gallon, which is not a gallon, per thousand gallons. That is not sustainable for the resident. It's really not sustainable for business. So our sewer plant and is part of the economic engine. People might not think of it that way, but if businesses, especially those that use a lot of water, cannot afford to pay a sewer bill, they're going to another city or town to run their business. So that's by far and away the biggest single issue. Now, we recently, a few months back, announced the release of the open space plan. The harbor plan is going to be coming out in the next few weeks, which leads to the comprehensive planning initiative, formerly known as the master plan. Plan 2000, which people are very familiar with, the name anyway, was put together over a couple of years to lay out the roadmap for Gloucester for the subsequent 10, 20 years. We didn't necessarily follow it exactly. Plus, there were a lot of huge changes technologically. Back in 1999, when this thing was being kicked around, the internet was in its infancy. There really wasn't the social media. So we need to modernize that plan, and the open space plan and the harbor plan will be part of the equation of that. One of the fears that people have when they work on these volunteer boards to put together reports is that, thank you for the report, we're going to stick it on a shelf and ignore it. So I'm just here to say that's not the case from this point going forward, especially for the open space plan, the harbor plan, and the comprehensive planning initiative, which I see that as part of the TOD multifamily zoning that's still hanging over our heads. It is not an option. People will try to simplify it, say, just don't do it, Mayor. It's not an option, it's the law. So as we move forward with through the planning board with the comprehensive planning initiative, which is initiated by them, and the zoning regulations that will be presented, I see them going hand in glove, that those zoning suggestions will be based on the input from the people. So sewer plan, comprehensive planning initiative are going to be the two things that are going to take up the most time over the next several months, if not the next year and a half. A lot more stuff going to be happening day by day, things we know about and things we're going to get surprised about. So,
one of the things you talked about in your campaign, there were pop-up shops on Main Street,
yeah.
And there have been some. And so, kudos to you for making that happen. So, but do you want to talk a little bit about revitalization of Main Street? We have Oak to Ember that just opened.
Yeah.
But so what do you?
Yeah. So I can't take the full credit for the pop-up shop. So we had the LRRP, can't think of the acronym, Local Rapid Recovery Plan initiatives that happened last year, the year before, prior to the campaign. And the city had put in, I think, a dozen applications for funding. The pop-ups and the signage program were two that were accepted. So I benefited from, actually having the dough in hand to make them happen. And with a partnership with Action and the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, we were able to do, I think it was about 24 local stores that got new signs. They're not all in place yet. It was supposed to be by the end of the calendar year. We got a bit of an extension. And the pop-up shops, there were 2 shops that went in, I think, late summer, and then 2 more went in about, it was there for 3 months. Then another couple weeks later, 2 more shops went in. One of them has since moved out because it ended at the end of the year. And one of them got an extension to stay through, I believe, March, and then we'll be, or February. And then we have another 2 more that we'll be bringing in at that time. So it's been really successful. So it's with Action providing the space, low cost. Somebody wants to start their brick and mortar store without the risk of coming up first, last in security and all the other things you need to keep a business going. This has them test the waters, and it's been pretty successful. I know that the first couple that were there wanted to find some more permanent space. I'm not sure they've been able to do that yet. Natalia down at Tatali, which is the shop that's hanging over, I'm sure she'd love to stay on somewhere eventually. Pop-up shops, the signage. So 2 great things. There are a few more applications that didn't get accepted for the LRRP last time that we've got now. We got recently a $25,000 grant to do technical assistance for a downtown management organization. We actually had the first meeting yesterday, kickoff with the steering committee. And that's where you basically have a formal semi-autonomous what am I trying to say? Board, commission, whatever you want to call it, who will be looking at what needs to be done downtown, sort of supplementing what the city should be doing. So it's not like, okay, you guys do it and you figure out how to fund plowing. No, we'll still do that. But things above and beyond, like if they want to do planters or other events through a voluntary tax or voluntary payments, they have something that has somebody on staff to plan day to day. So that's a good thing. Stay tuned for that. It was a great crowd of people yesterday who were interested in making things happen. We're going to be looking into a meeting next week about these kiosks, not parking kiosks, these little advertising kiosks that point wayfinding. That's a big thing. So people know there is an east end of Main Street too. The stores down there. There is, retail in Lanesville, retail in Lexington Ave and Magnolia. So, and these signs we're looking at are electronic, so you can have messages and things like that. That's another grant we got. So there's a lot going on. It's all about economic development and trying to point people in the right direction to spend money. And of course, the parking study is underway to see where the needs are. I mean, if you go down the far end, the old Papachinos, the far end of Main Street, there's usually a good amount of parking. So people say there's no parking on Main Street. It's pretty much from Bank Gloucester down that they're looking at, but there's usually a good amount down the other end of Main Street. So we want to make sure that people are aware of where the parking is, get this parking study and find out what we can do to make things better. People say, oh, parking garage. Well, where and who's going to pay for it? So we'll stay tuned for the study, and we want to just try to keep things moving forward and get people indoors spending money.
Gotcha. Another big story for 2023, Greg, is the opening of the new consolidated elementary school on Webster Street. So are you happy with that progress? We spoke with Superintendent Lummis recently, and he's happy. He says everything's sort of on course to open for the next school year. So your thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, let me just quickly say, Oak to Ember. Yes, I went to their soft opening the other day. Excellent space, excellent food, and it's just going to be another plus for the restaurant options downtown. And so anybody who denies there was controversy surrounding the new school is deluded. They're absolutely, well, resulted in a lawsuit. For full disclosure, when I was a private citizen, I voted for it on the ballot, for the override, to be clear. Maybe it could have been handled better. I'm not going to second guess those the mayor who sat here before me or the school committee who sat there before me. But the fact is, we are where we are. The school's nearly completed, on budget, on time. It's going to 1949, I believe, is when East Gloucester School was built. Vets was built 1956-ish, 56, 57. Those are dog years in terms of technology and just the layout of schools and how things should be done. And so it's, when we went there, Kory, I mean, you go to Vets too?
I did. I was a West Parish guy, but both my parents worked at Vets.
Right, that's right. But West Parish was also a 1948 school. So, we both went to schools when they were a lot younger, but they were still, when I went to Vets, it was still almost 20 years old, so, and you look at the schools, East Gloucester and West Parish were built, like I said, a year apart when Truman was president. Beeman and Vets were built when Eisenhower was president, so that's four schools that happened in relatively, I say, within 10 years of each other. And then we had nothing, O'Malley happened. And then you look back before that, and there were several of those old schools, Eastern Ave School, Maplewood School, that were built like the early 1900s, late 1800s, several built in a short period of time. We had decades and decades and decades where we weren't doing anything with schools, just plugging in modular classrooms and jerry-rigging classrooms out of corridors and things like that. So this is an opportunity, the same opportunity that was provided to West Parish in 2016, a brand new state-of-the-art school, and in the case of Vets, for some of our most vulnerable population, to have this new school that's clean, that's spacious, healthy environment. And so I'm really happy with it. The controversy surrounding the Meadows Field, that's a whole nother issue. But we have to look at the school for what it is. This is a project that was decades overdue, and I'm just really happy that it's almost ready to go. And by this fall, the kids will be going in there.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, do you have any comments on the fact that the wastewater numbers are kind of up in Gloucester and COVID is kind of lingering around?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one good thing is, when we 2 years ago at this time, we were all like, didn't know if it was a death sentence, and for the most part today, it's an irritating cold. I haven't heard anything of serious, not a lot of people getting put on ventilators these days. So it's been pretty common knowledge that this is something we're going to have to live with for a long time. And thankfully, we have the testing, we have the PPE, and we have the knowledge of how to protect ourselves. And, there are medications that help soften the blow if you do get it. So yes, the numbers are up. It's concerning, but I think at this point, people are just ready to live their lives and take the precautions that they feel they need to take. It's still serious. If you've got, health risks, you have respiratory issues or other factors, you need to be a little more careful than others. But we are where we are. I keep saying that phrase, but as far as COVID goes, that is where we are. And so we have to live with it and be vigilant. And it was funny because I was just upstairs at the Curcuru Auditorium, and there are chairs set up. I'm not sure what's happening up there, but I was thinking about the inauguration last January 1st, and we had like maybe 15 chairs, 20 chairs in the audience spread out about 10 feet apart. So we've come a long way.
For sure.
Yeah. Greg, I wanted to ask, what is the latest with the windmill repair?
Well, as you've seen, they've taken down all of the blades.
Yeah.
I think the hub is now down. The folks at Applied Materials have asked that any questions relating to the turbine be sent to their media relations. So I will leave it at that. The other two turbines that the city has a piece of the action on are still doing well and still generating energy for us. Revenue for us.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything?
How's your wife doing? Is she? How's it going?
Kelly's she's great. She's a good sport, and it's tough because when things go, when issues happen here, and I go home, she goes, "What happened? I can't tell you, can't talk to you." It's like being a CIA agent, and so some of this stuff is personnel issues or other legal issues. It's like I can't talk to you about it, but she's there to give me a little bit of assurance and hang in there type thought. So yeah, but she's doing well.
Nice. Okay, Greg, lastly, any words for your constituents as we all look forward to 2023?
Yeah, I didn't hear the last question.
Any words for your constituents as we look forward to 2023?
Yeah, sure. I would say, well, thank you all for your support. Thank you all for giving me a chance. And if you have any questions or comments for the administration, please call us at 978-281-9700 or email mayor@gloucester-ma.gov. Please don't put comments on our Facebook page. We feel free to comment, but don't post questions there because we don't necessarily get to them. We're not constantly monitoring the questions. Don't message us through Facebook Messenger because we don't respond to those. We try to keep all of the inquiries through the official channel so they're logged in and everybody is treated equally. We don't want to we made a conscious decision when we got here that we weren't going to reply to comments because if we miss somebody's, that's inconsistent. So again, thank you. I just want to wish everybody a happy new year, but I do want to give one more plug to 1623 and to Music with the Mayor. Tyler's been doing a great job with us. We just posted, I think, our 5th episode with Annette Dion. You're both familiar with Annette. And we have one more in the can that should be coming out in February. I'm recording one next Friday. And, we do these Friday afternoon after City Hall is closed when I'm on my own free time. No city dollars are expended on this. And I, as a musician and someone who cares about art, I think it's important that we give this opportunity or opportunities like this to the local musicians, the local songwriters to share their art with the world. And I'm really happy with the results. Tyler's editing is great. I mean, the graphics, the comes in here with like, say 4 or 5 cameras. I'm really pleased. Sound quality, video is excellent. So thank you to him. People can enjoy it. We usually link it on our page or at 6023's page. But I just want to wish everybody a happy new year. And I'm looking forward to good things ahead for our 400th.
There you have it. And you can watch Music with the Mayor on Channel 12 and all of 1623's social media outlets. Mayor Greg Verga, we appreciate your time and your service. Have a happy and healthy new year.
Same to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.